Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about AI automation to economic suicide that we are going full speed. So let's dive deep into it. So let's understand the economics, just a brief rough overview. Money is just paper that you trust. As simple as that. There is no value. And please do not, for the love of God, believe it like gold has value. No, no. If you are thirsty, water has value. If you are without heat, heat has value. Gold is nothing. We all agreed, we trusted gold has value. That's why money has value. So money is just a paper that we trust. Now again, it does not have to be physical paper. You get the point. It's something that we trust with a set value. 100 rupee note, 500 rupee note, 2000 rupee note, $1,000, whatever have you. And we built institution to maintain it and stabilize it. We have learned it the hard way that it cannot be a free floating things. If you think it can be free floating, it can be decentralized, please look into how many scams have happened because of that in basically Bitcoin ecosystem. And trust me, the numbers are horrifyingly large. So we learned it the hard way back in the old days. We have learned it that it needs centralization, it needs maintenance, it needs stability added onto it. So we built institution, like in case of India is Bharatiya Reserve Bank or Reserve Bank of India. So we built this. Then you also need some muscle. That muscle is law. Now law is for regulation and punishing anyone who is cheating or frauding. Like in 2008 case, bad things happen. So what did law and regulation did? At that point in time, they created new buffers, new fail-safes to make sure that never happens again. What did people do? People bypassed it by crypto. What happened? FTX just now FTX went lol. So be mindful, we learned it the hard way. These things are learned things, where it's like, yeah, we need a centralized system. Yes, we need law and regulation, hardcore centralized systems. Now that's just the money part of it. So what happens to us? Like, how do we do the trading of it? Well, you either do things for someone. Let's say you can go to their house and repair electronics for them, or you can make things for them. You can give them a car, whatever have you, food, whatever have you. You make things or do things for other folks. As simple as that. And they pay you for it, whatever the pre-agreed upon amount is. And after that, the money you collect, you pay to other people for goods and services. For example, you may be staying in a rented place, you will be giving that money away. It's like, hey, I pay, like paying you for this service. So that's how economy works. So we created a system that allows us to do bartering system far more efficiently, and then we basically for goods and services exchange money here and there. Now we have to pay taxes on that. Everybody hates, I do understand it, but it is a required system. Now what percentage, that's a different thing, but it does require to be there. Some company will say it's like, it could be as low as 5%. If you are very healthy, very rich economy, yeah, maybe. But other scenarios, you may be a bit higher, but you get the point. We need it. It's just amount is the questionable part. We need it so the system can be maintained, because again, who will pay the law? Who will pay for the institution and maintenance? You do need some taxation. So that's how all the system remains stable in long term. Now here's the, is it a good system? Like, because again, on US dollar we have in good we trust. In case of Indian rupees we have I promise to pay the bearer of a sum of 500 rupees. And again, it's a different denomination is noted there. I promise to pay the bearer sum of 100 rupees or sum of 50 rupees, whatever have you. So is this a working system? Short answer, yes, it does work. It's not perfect because it does require two core factors, basically immune system, so to say. The corruption has to be low. It does not need to be zero. It does not need to be absolutely gone, but it does need to be low enough where it's like, okay, it can be handled. And it also needs high accountability, meaning if some people goes poof, you do need to poof them also. So this is one of those things. If you have these two vectors under control, like you have high accountability and very low corruption, the system will work efficiently. If you have some rough patch and too much corruption happens, too little accountability happens, yeah, it will cause serious damage. Look into Argentina. So it's one of those things. It does require a very serious amount of effort to keep it maintained. But this is the economic side of things. Now let's come to the harsh reality. The harsh reality is all jobs are important. Let that be very clear. All, and I mean all. Every job is important to someone. That's why they are doing it. If jobs were not important, they would not be doing it. Let that be very clear. And on top of that, it's very important for total economics. What does that mean? Think of it this way. Oppenheimer made almost $1 billion. Was there a billionaire going there and paying them? Hell no. There were millions of people paying a little amount. That's how it accumulated. So even if you think some job is very low, it's paying very little, it is that money is being spent. That's why person is earning that money to spend that money. That money is being spent. Of course, some people will say that's not spent wisely or it's like, but it is always spent. Heck, it may be spent on children's education. So how do you think the teacher got the salary? Because of that job. So it's always important. Do not, under any and all circumstances, ever assume any job to be, not important. Now, low skill job does not mean worthless. I have seen this way too many times nowadays where it's like, oh, it's a low skill job. Today, every job is low skill job to someone else. So fundamentally, do not, under any circumstance, consider a low skill job like driving or something like that to be a worthless job. It's still fuel for economy. Your economy can only run as long as you have a very good wide base of people doing stuff. Like, for example, let's say you are in New York and you are like the uber hyper ultra rich person that is leeching the like whole China dry, and you are buying a lot of real estate in China, basically in New York, and you are like, hey, why New York has no cleaning issue? Like, why there is no clean? Why people are peeing on the floor, road and all that? It's like, what? Well, there is no cleaning crew. Why? They can't afford to pay cleaning crew like $1 million. You can't afford to pay that, and they can't afford to live in the rent. So cascade failure. For that reason, economy requires a very good, a very healthy, quote unquote, low skill jobs. And again, they also pay taxes. Now, you may be like, in case of India, you are like, hey, if you're making very little amount of money, you're not paying income tax. That's fundamentally true. However, you're still paying. If my money goes to someone else, like, heck, let's say I spend that money to a doctor will pay tax on that. If I buy a chips, I will pay GST on that. So whatever have you will always pay taxes. So it's the fuel for economy. It cannot be denied. It cannot be like, oh, it's not that important. Trust me when I say this, it is important. And there is a very wise quote from Nietzsche. Is like a high civilization is a pyramid. That's factual data. It can stand only on a broad base. Its primary prerequisite is a strong and soundly consolidated mediocrity. Meaning, imagine it this way, you are in a school, everybody is scoring, let's say, 100 out of 100. Who is the topper? Well, no one. Everyone is average. That's the whole point. You need mediocrity for top to happen. You need basically poor people for rich people to exist. Otherwise, everybody would be poor. Look into the medieval era or era before that. Everybody was poor. So they are fuel. Low skill jobs, low wage jobs, all of them, while they are not amazing, they are necessary. Then majority of people don't like their job. 80% of people flat out don't like their job. Now, you would hope that they are professional enough where they will do their job well enough where it's like, it's not an issue. It's like, you like it or you don't like it, that's a different thing. You do your job well enough. So, and why do people do jobs? Well, it allows them to survive and it allows them to grow. So, and you may be like, isn't it would be better if we removed all of it? Yeah, we did not had these things. We have learned it the hard way. Like, this is one of those things people genuinely do not understand. We had all these things and we had an era before these things. That was not great. We learned it the hard way, that this is the better way. For surviving and for growing, you do require certain level of oomph, certain level of grind. So that's helped. Now, pyramid needs a big base. Let that be very clear. Pyramid requires a very big base. So, for example, this is India's income distributed by percentage. Basically, it's in rupees. It's a very low amount. So, if you want to simplify, assume basically $1 is equal to 100 rupees. So, if you like, how many percentage are making what kind of amount of money? So, less than 20, basically around 20% of Indian people are making 4,600 rupee, like $46 a month. And then you go to 40%, they are making around $67 a month or 6,700 rupees. Then you go to 80%, that's 14,900. That translates to, let's say, $150. Let's just put it that way. And then it goes up and up. Now, here's the deal. Because India's population is ludicrously large, we do have boatload of people in terms of number. In terms of number, we have ludicrously large amount of people who are making more than 100,000 rupees per month. That's like a lot, like that's like around $1,000 a month. And yes, money does go far in India. So, and there are a lot of people who are also making 3,70,000 per month. I'm like, damn, that's serious money in India. That's like GG money in India. And here's the, even though that's like less than 1%, you have to understand, less than 1% of 1 billion people is a bonkersly large amount of number. And be mindful, India's population is right now around 1.5 billion. So that's why you have to understand, this base is what's keeping this up. And you may be like, wouldn't it be better if we just poof all this? Well, here's the deal. Everything will collapse. We have learned it the hard way. That's why communism always says, communism is like, what if we cut this part? What if we poof them? They did. And then this whole thing collapsed. So communism, everybody is poor. Capitalism, there is a very severe income inequality, but it's better off. Like, it's one of those things that some people who are basically, not in a good financial position, when they travel to other places, specifically from America to, let's say, South America, and then they look what poverty really looks like, they're like, yeah, dude, American poverty is not poverty. Like, trust me. So it's one of those things that these people would be like, we should poof them. Yeah, we have tried it time and time again. And trust me, this was even worse. So we have learned it the hard way, that this inequality is the payment for this to be stable. So we build a stable base. Now, why this is, right? Why this Pareto distribution? Why this inequality? Well, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you the most bitter thing in this universe, but all of you will agree, not everyone is Einstein. I'm not Einstein. Most likely you are not Einstein. So why do you expect this there then? It's like if I say, what percentage of people are hyper smart? You will say, yeah, very tiny. Then very tiny amount of people make that. And you will learn, not every scientist is rich. Here's the deal. Scientist only means intelligence. Smart means you know how to do things. As in, how to do things for people. People will willingly pay you. Why do you think streamers make so much money if they are wise enough? Like, people willingly pay them just to talk them with them. Let that sink in. So you have to understand that not everybody is smart. Like, that's factual reality. Not everybody is. And consequence would be Pareto distribution is real. For example, right now we talk about billionaires and billionaires and billionaires. How many billionaires you think are there on the planet? Short answer, very few. Idiotically few. Like, oh my God, I thought it would be much bigger. Like, Google it. Please Google it. You mean like, what about millionaires? Not that many. Not that many. Like, they are roughly 6,000. Actually less than that. But you get the point. Not that many. So it drops exponentially. So I, like, whenever I look at my YouTube earnings, it's not that great. Let that be very clear. But when I look at this graph, I'm like, and then when I look at my current living situation, I'm like, me good, bro. Me good. So it's one of those things. Like, this is a very good example of what people think versus what real is. For example, United States real versus perceived income gap. So they did a survey. It's like, what amount of people do you think is living in this sort of income range? So people thought 65% of people were living at 25K. Reality is 82% of people are living there. And then they're like, okay, 50% of people should be making around 50K. Only 62% of people were. 35% of people should be like, more than 100K. Yeah, 34. This one was the closest. And 19% of people should be like around, 500K. Yeah, that dropped to 1%. And millionaires, same thing, 10%. Reality, 0.5%. The same thing. You see the Pareto distribution, that extreme drop. Like, think about it. Like, it's going 82, 62. It's not that one. The bam, that wabam happened. That Pareto distribution played its role. So it's one of the bitter things, but it is there. Is there in intelligence? Is there in how you make money? That's why even like only difference would be between capitalism and communism is like, in communism, different type of people will get it. Stalin will get that power. You won't. So that's the harsh reality. Like, we want this to be stable. We never want this to collapse. We always want this to slowly go up. But the bitter part of them would be always noticing it, like, they will not notice like, oh, I have this many things and all that, but like, oh, that person has 10 Ferraris. That inequality would be the painful part. And because of human psychology, inequality is more painful than poverty. So I do understand when people are like, let's burn everything to the ground. And to all of them, don't. We have tried it. We have learned it the hard way. It does not work. Like, if you think right now you are in pain, right now you are in perceived pain. In that time, you will be in actual pain. So that's the reality of it. Please Google how many millionaires are there and how many billionaires. Numbers will shock you, my guarantee. So we come to the artificial intelligence part. Why is such a big deal? Well, we achieved into doing something that we thought impossible. Basically, we allowed silicon to think. I like there is a YouTuber who made this amazing quote. It's like, it was a bad idea to make sand think. So we reached that point. We have achieved it. At this point, you may be like, oh, it's not that great. That's not the point. Point is, we have achieved stage 1. We got it. We're good. So we are in early stages of it. Let that be very clear. I see way too many people, AI will never do it. It's like, what are you basing that never based on? Like, if humanity's technology in last 1 century is compared, it's unbelievable what we have achieved in 1 century. If you stretch that to 1,000 years, it's like, what? But here's the deal. Here we are. Now compare that to silicon. Let's be broad. Let's say in integrated circuits, ICs, that black magic thing. Yeah, that's barely 50 years old. Let that sink in. 50 years. It's not even 1 century. It's not even one human lifespan, and we have reached so far. So this is what exponential growth looks like. In 2000, basically year 2000, it was unthinkable. Talking about AI like how we talk today, basically we went from AI was unthinkable. It was some mathematical people, some people were doing, some research people in MIT, to boring. We do not talk about AI now because it's like, it's done to death, it's boring. So exponential growth has happened, and it's happening, and rate of increase is also exponential. So it has to be measured, instead of linear going up, it has to be measured logarithmically. And the scary part is it's like this in logarithm. So it's horrifyingly fast, and it's also reaching the improvement point of self-fixing. What does that mean? That simply means every time a species evolves, it needs some competition. And if you become apex predator like we are, it needs competition with itself. So basically humans only grew beyond a certain point once we started to go boom 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 with each other. Basically wars happened, we developed metals. More war happened, we developed better tools. More war happened, more stuff happens. Basically the war happened, we became better. More war happened, we became even better. Look at the technology before World War I, look at the technology after World War II. Horrifyingly how much we improve after World War. And given the fact that I'm seeing that exact same thing, we are building an AI, who is going to train it, we create another AI, and then they go boom boom with each other. Yeah, I kind of understand it. It's like it's the cruel part of reality, it's cruel part of what we call natural selection, but it is what it is. So AI has reached that point where the growth is exponential. What it cannot do today does not mean it cannot do in 5 years from now, not even 50, 5 years from now. And self-fixing is also making it far more efficient, far more elegant. So 2000, what is this AI? And now people are literally coding based on ChatGPT. So, and you may be like, this is one breaking thing that people do to create a cognitive dissonance, basically to elude them, basically give themselves delusion, where it's like artificial general intelligence. It's not here. Is that true? Factually true. Would it be here? It could take time. General intelligence, as in like it's a brain in a server, that will take time. Whereas a brain like a human brain, it will take some time. I'm not going to expect that to happen anytime soon. However, it does not need to be. Like for example, your Uber AI or your Tesla AI that is driving your car does not need to know what is politics. It does not need to know what is sex. It just needs to know, hey, where do you want to go? Can you please click that place in a map? Okay, you picked it. Done. My job is here, done. And now it's going to be like, okay, what is inertia? What is momentum? What is my brake efficiency? All that data it needs, but it does not even need to think about, where should I go for dinner? Which is a good place to eat? It's like it does not care. And if you ask them, all it will do is send that data to another AI, like for example, Google AI. Let's say voice decoding is complex. It will send that data to Google AI. It's like, hey, Google, come on, man, translate that puppy for me. It translates it, gives it back. So you see, even though we do not have one general intelligence, the fact that we have so many, like one AI is just for decoding voice, one AI just for driving car, one AI just for doing stock trading, one AI just for doing image editing, like this sort of image editing where you're taking a, let's say, a picture and you're changing the design. This would have taken months. Let that be very clear. This would have taken months to do by hand. I'm an artist. Trust me, it takes time. This sort of Photoshop aging up and down, as in like olding or making them younger, it would have taken days. AI is doing it horrifyingly fast, as in like done. So you do not need you do not need artificial general intelligence. Without that, it's still scary. Without that, it can still remove all the jobs. And any job that it cannot remove right now, like you may say, hey, the voice AI, while it is very good, it's not that good. It still has some. Here still, I can guarantee you in the next 5 years, people could make AI that it would be more than good enough to remove almost all, basically, call center jobs. The only reason it won't be removed is just like there will be some hesitation, there will be some practice, and again, some ethics also, law-based ethics, not company don't care. It's just that there would be some laws. So it would take time, but trust me, it will happen. And only few iterations from that point onwards, let's say by 2050, yeah, all of it. So we have basically what we have done is basically remove the magic from us ourselves. Basically, back in the days before AI, we used to think everything like muscle, bone, that's good. But this was magic. Everything here is magic, black magic. In Hindi, we have a saying like "dhol ki pol khul gayi." Basically, we had a music instrument. It was hollow, but it sounds like whoa, big, boom, boom. Sounds very big, like a drum. So it was like, once you punched it, it's like, hey, it's completely empty. So same thing. We used to think what's happening here is magic. Once we actually started to teach it to silicon, where it's like, huh, it's just weights, man. It's just weights. It's just patterns. And I'm like, damn. Basically, we unlocked this puppy. We started to understand. And be mindful, this is early stage. Imagine what we'll do in next 50 years. So flat out, anybody who's saying, oh, AI cannot do this job, they are driving car like this. They are looking at backwards. It's like AI can't do this now. They are not looking, hey, wait a minute. How far we have reached in last 50 years? Like imagine in 2000, you would have talked to someone else like about smartphone. They would not have believed it. And your smartphone has rudimentary AI today. So that's why artificial intelligence is so scary. We literally took this part out, put it in a server. And sometimes low energy server. So now the scary part of it, the intellectual disconnect. Now here's the intellectual people, whether you like it or not, ironically, if you zoom out enough, they are the one who decides the future. For example, do you know who was the president during Einstein and all that? Or who was the mayor of his town? Most likely you don't. Who was in time of Newton? Or whatever smart people in Tesla. That's the whole point. Like we do not care about that, but you do know they're there because they change things. So these intellectual people are the horsepower of this world. Basically, they're this, decide what happens to everybody else. And the scariest thing I have seen in them is like now they do not even know that they are considering every single job as a low skill job. Every single one of them. They may not use that exact word, but they are doing it. Their action is speaking that. So, for example, everybody is automating without thinking about that everybody else is also automating. For example, they are doing like this. I'm gonna automate this part because people don't want to do this and they want to do other things. It's like they're not realizing that other things also. I want to automate this because people don't want to do or can't do. Like brick by brick, every field. For example, right now you have to work really hard to find a field that people are not trying to automate. So from drivers to warehouses robotics to doctors to pilots to artists to singers to programmers to cooks to lawyers. And be mindful, trust me, I can write a very long list. I have not found single field where people are like, you know what, let's not automate it. If there is enough people there, if there is enough money, somebody's working their ass off right now to make it automated, including prostitution. So trust me when I say this, there is not even a single job or field that is like, we save. Like people are trying to make, doctor robotics, like it can never replace it. Remember, this would have been considered a black magic 50 years ago. Meaning at the time of someone who was a sentient, and now they're like, this was never, this was unimaginable, even in my childhood dream. We have this. We do not even give it a minute. Like robotic surgery. Let that sink in. Like there is people who are actively working and they are achieving success. Rudimentary. Train is just starting. But we are reaching a point where we have actual surgical robots. And we are going from surgical robots to adding AI into it. Now you were like, is that a bad deal? Well, here's the deal. This is how people will sell you. It's like, hey, we are doing surgical robots, so because there is so much demand that people are not getting the care they need. Sounds good, sounds awesome. But here's the little twist. Here's the deal. Because they get paid so much, they bother to do a study that is needed. Like becoming a surgeon is a time-consuming thing. Look into anything. Like ask any doctor. It's like that's the one thing that they will say about every doctor in every country. Is like it takes time. To become good, it takes time. So consequence of that, you need to charge more in order to justify the time you spent. So as in like the pay of the debt that you have occurred. It's normal, right? High demand, you get paid more. Now you add robotics into it. Now day one, it will be like, hey, the doctor is supervising. Day 100, it will be like, hey, AI is doing the low level things. Day 5,000, it will be like, AI is mostly doing it. Doctors are like getting called for some extreme cases. Day 10,000, what is a doctor surgeon? That's the whole thing. And the biggest advantage that AI has over human brain is not the intelligence part, is the fact that it has no memory loss issue. Like this part, our processing, GG, awesome, no competition. Memory part, lol. What is memory? I have never heard of this thing. We do not have memory. And what's the strongest asset of an AI system? Memory. It can literally catalog every single surgery it does and transfer it to someone else and be like, hey, I made this mistake, this caused this issue, make sure this is bug fixed. Yeah. So people are like, oh, we're just removing warehouse. Okay, you are also removing surgeons. You are also supplement, and be mindful, these things that are supplementing, that's how it begins. Warehouses are not automated 100% yet, but that's how it starts. Like if you go to Henry Ford time and it's like, this is going to happen, they're like, dude, what black magic you are talking about? But it's here. That's how it started. So every field, every single field, and when this sort of robotics are happening, people are not understanding like this is expensive right now. Let that be very clear. However, how strong this is, the fact that this puppy can do freaking backflip today, imagine what it can do in next 5 years. Then people like, homemaking will always, dude, have you heard of 3D printing homes? And how it will start will be like, hey, first 100 people would be needed to make a house. Then it will like 3D print it. And 10 people will be needed to just do final touch-ups and all that. Then it will be like 5 people are needed, 5 robots are there, they are doing the heavy lifting. Then it will be like 2 people are there, all robotics, all 3D printed. That's today, that we can do today with today's technology. It's just not cost effective yet, but it will be. Remember how expensive your mobile phone were? So that's the whole thing. Fundamentally, everybody is working their ass off to remove everyone else's job, and nobody's sitting down to think is like, where these people will go, where this 80% of the population will go, and which job field is safe. Like farming, for crying out loud, farming. What about this happens, that happens? Here's the deal. It will happen today. Back in the old days of mobile phone, it was unreliable. Like you could not call people most of the time. It was like, now we do not even care about it. We have HD. Heck, we have video call, man. So it's one of those things. Mark 1 is always garbage. Mark 10, you do not want to compare. So this whole point, and the argument, counter argument is like it will have cheap goods and services, like doctors will be cheap and goods will be cheaper. Okay, first, no, that will never happen because of the penalty of the capital investment in this puppy. It won't be cheap. At best case scenario, it will reach equilibrium, meaning the cost will remain inflation locked. So it's a $5,000, $5,000. That's it. It will get locked. It won't get cheaper, but it will get locked, which would be good enough in long term. But here's the deal, low cost products, cheap goods, awesome, everything is awesome. Is that, but what's the point if nobody has money? It's like, yeah, sir, this is $10. What if I have no money? What if I have no job? And there is no giving in the beggars also, because again, everybody is jobless. You removed every single field. It's not going to happen today. Let that be very clear. But I'm seeing the foundation laid down today where it's like, dude, which field is intact? Everybody is giving me garbage answer where it's like, human intuition. It's like emotional intelligence. That's a weird weed. I'm like, dude, there is no intelligence emotional. It's like intelligence, how you apply it, that's up to you. Some people are very clever. They will apply it emotionally and they will become therapists. Some people are very good. They will apply their emotion even more cleverly. They'll become psychopaths and they'll become CEOs. And that's how you get it. Like intelligence, you apply in the art, you apply in the communication, you get your stuff done. It's not like this is the part that AI is replicating and this is our emotional intelligence. No, it can be replicated. We have already reached that point. Heck, you need proof? Trust me. Look into what people are achieving with AI girlfriends. Trust me, there is no such thing as emotional intelligence. It's just intelligence applied on emotional domain. So what's the biggest issue here? Biggest issue is that we only bring 2 things to the table. Like any company, any corporation, what do we bring to the table? We bring our body, we bring our mind. Like I go to an office when I used to have a job. It's like, hey, me a dude, me here, me do work. I have hands and hands and stuff. I'm gonna move your keyboards and mouse and I'm gonna do stuff for you. My brain will allow you to get 3D models out of me and you will pay me for it. It worked. Imagine both of them can be done. Like moving, you have robots. Doing things is just data goes into the system, output. So fundamentally, both of those things are now outdated. Like again, robotics will take care of the physical part of it, servers will take care of the intelligence part of it. What the hell we have left to sell? Like what the hell are you going to sell? Like realistically, not just like, oh, this and that and hulululu. No, what realistically are you going to sell? So this is one of those things that genuinely scares me about this, is that we are working our ass off to replicate this without any thought of what's going to happen if we actually achieve it. Imagine this, imagine this sort of robotics, if it actually becomes good with human hand. Right now it has actuators, but what if they figured out how to design a hand, which again, I can guarantee you they're working their ass off, but they're not thinking, what if we actually did it? What if they actually made a hand? The moment they do that, robotics will replace human flexible robotics. Meaning humans are still hired in many production runs. Why? It's easier to retrain a human. The moment this puppy gets it, problem solved, sir. With this mobile, you can have 10,000 model. Heck, every mobile phone model could be a different model. And because again, it's done by hand, it can be done because the hand is attached to a robot rather than attached to a human. So that's the scary part to me. It's like everybody is working their ass off to remove everybody else's job and nobody's thinking, wait a minute, what if we all succeed? Like, new jobs. What field? What field will give you this many jobs? Like realistically, what field? If you remove majority of goods and majority of services, what field is left? What field? Genuinely, sit down and think about it. Now, would there be new jobs? Absolutely. Would there be enough to compensate for AI? No. And this is the scary part, that if doctors are low skilled, what the hell is high skilled enough? If programmers are low skilled, what the hell is high skilled? Like, then again, predal distribution will happen. Best of the best of the best of the best will become that. But here's the deal, they are a very tiny minority in a human population. So this intellectual disconnect scares me. It's like nobody is understanding like how scary it is that we are just working our ass off to just make it, and nobody's like, okay, what if we actually made it? Like, it's one of those Jurassic Park's dialogue where it's like, your scientists were too busy thinking about like, can they actually do this? They never stopped to think, should we do it? So this intellectual disconnect scares me. And if intellectual people are talking like that, every meeting I'm seeing is like, oh, we are just removing people from the jobs they do not want to consider. It's like, nobody wants to do the job. They are doing it because that's how they provide for themselves. So what is the outcome of this? Well, outcome is very simple, no equilibrium, and that's the scary part. How do you think nature manages to have herbivorous and carnivorous in the same forest? Well, reality is very simple. It has stable equilibrium, meaning a carnivorous is not going to go YOLO on the herbivorous and just eat a lot of it. Because if it did eat a lot of it, it will die out because of starvation, because the next generation cycle would be broken, equilibrium would be breached. So as long as there is equilibrium, things will be balanced. It won't be perfect, but it will be good. It will be stable long term. Now, here's the deal. What is happening to our planet right now is that 1%, that is in top, they are working way too hard to eat everything. Meaning, for example, I will give the example of a lion. Lion's supposed to eat, let's say, 5 cows a year. It's working its ass off to eat 50 cows or kill 50 cows. That's the worst case. Like, it has no reason to do it. It's just like, what if I more? Even more. It's like, that's scary. And they have power. They have experience, which no younger variant can match. They're old, and that's the scary part of it. Like, why the being old matters. Imagine it this way. If all the senators, all the parliament agents, if they are 60, 70 plus years old, if they are at an age where literally in all other scenarios you have to be manually kicked out, why the heck they are there? And how can you kick them out? Well, you can't. They have so much accumulated power, you won't. It's like they are saying, is like, oh, you are 96-year-old, now you are applicable to running for a president. It's like, what? And again, you do get senile at that age. You do get very jaded, very bitter. You can see that. You can see there's like half the time they're like, what are you saying? Other half the time, do you even know how technology works? So what is the bitter outcome of it? Well, outcome is they are just eating everything and they do not care. Like, I can see all of them, like literally nobody is sitting down. It's like studying things to update themselves. They're like, dude, I have power. The end. They're just like, they're full of fluff. They do not have genuine care anymore. Why don't have? Majority of them have been divorced 2 or 3 times. They do not even know about their kids. And again, that's the side effect. That's why, like, we used to have an equilibrium, whereas, like, after 60, I know it's bitter, but we had to remove you. Like, we had to create fresh space. We are not creating that fresh space, and we are just letting them rot at the top. And like, things they talk about electronics, things they talk about environment, and about general physical chemistry based things. I'm like, dude, how? But again, then I realized, oh, they are 96 years old. So fundamentally, they are literally reaching a point. It's just like, I want to take everything. And it's like, sir, what after that? I'm going to die. It's not my problem anymore. What the hell? Like, for example, why young hates old at this point is so realistic is that housing crisis, right? So what happened is that people, instead of buying homes just as, hey, I need a home, I buy a home, me done, to went from I buy a home, me done. Hey, what if I buy another home? What if I sell it again as an asset? Then I'll make more money. Now you do this 2 or 3 times. Everybody who were in the first batch, they got a lot of, like, lot of money, moolah. But everybody who's like 4 or 5 generations from now, generation as in like 10 years cycle from now, they are like, dude, house could not be affordable anymore. And here's the, that's what we trigger a cascade failure. The rich people, they're rich. They do not care. Heck, they could even have like 2 or 3 alimonies on them. And they're like, yeah, one alimony, first ex-wife, second ex-wife, third ex-wife. And they're like, we still have 15 houses left. It's like they are literally increasing price of every good so much that lower class people cannot afford it. Consequence, same thing is happening in New York. It's like every Chinese billionaire who's leeching their country is just dumping the money into that system, and they're just buying real estate in New York. It's like, and nobody can afford it. Like, people are just leaving. The lower businesses are leaving. Like, who cares? Have you looked into their subway system? There is a reason why it's not that great. It's like brick by brick, you're literally leeching it. So this sort of 1 percentile getting so out of touch, getting so, and again, as a collective, we do not have the wisdom to kick them out. That's scary. That means we are not understanding equilibrium. We are not understanding the importance of it. Like, it started as a good, where it's like, experience and all that. It's like, whoa, we had to learn this the hard way, that you must remove someone that old. And there won't be upper class if there is no lower class. That part, I am genuinely shocked even the uber rich people do not understand. It's like, dude, what are you working towards? Are you really, like, sit down and think, what are you working? Like, it's like, I'm the tech millionaire. I'm going to steal 50 billion, let's say, 50 billion by doing this techno hululu. More than enough people have done that. What after that? Like, literally, we are reaching a point where big cities like London, Bangalore, Delhi, New York, these cities are reaching a breaking point, meaning the lower class people simply cannot afford it. Meaning, you're reaching a point where sub-services, meaning your cleaning, maintenance, those things will become exponentially expensive and people will stop paying it. You cannot pay your janitor $10 million. So we are reaching a point where lower class will collapse, and the moment that happens, the whole pyramid collapses. And here's the deal, you may be like, let the system burn. Here's the, it's worst for both of them. It's like, I can live with a world which is unequal. I cannot live in a world where there is no world. So this is a very scary thing. This equilibrium loss that we have is genuinely scary. It's like we have no plan. Everybody is just working their ass off to get automation. We don't even have a pseudo plan of UBI, universal basic income. And this is one thing that people have suggested that it could work in someone's favor. I do understand, but this is the US government. It's like majority oppose universal basic income, 36% strongly oppose, 18% somewhat opposed, 34% somewhat favor, 11% strongly in favor. This is India's universal basic income, 7,600 to 20 rupees per year, which would be very little. Heck, it will be very low, but it could help. And that's the whole point. Everybody's just like, we'll block it. It's like, dude, you are the reason why we have such a bad life now. You are the reason, because you literally made homes into an asset. Like, that's the line should not have been crossed. And now we are literally looking down a barrel of AI, where it's like, we're going to take everybody's jobs and everybody's going to say everybody else's job. Like, where the hell are we supposed to go? So this equilibrium loss is the scary part to it. It's like, nobody's sitting down. Half of them, like, I genuinely know, like, half of them will like, oh yeah, I can't do this, because they can't see ahead of them. And again, most of them have foggy views. So that's the scary part. So this was my presentation on basically the fact that we are literally working our ass off towards the economical suicide. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst a friend. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.